Hey, all right, back again on this fine Thursday, May 6th evening. It's only 10:47, a little earlier tonight. Just got done having dinner with my dad. It was fantastic. We talked a lot about kind of growth, future plans. That's the cat. She's been a little needy tonight. But yeah, it was awesome. Getting to hang out with my dad, talk about some of the things that have been on my mind. I mentioned this little YouTube thing I'm doing. Didn't tell him the name of the channel. I don't know why. I just still feel a little, maybe embarrassed is not the right word. Embarrassed isn't the right word. I don't know, embarrassed. Just, these are like kind of like little intimate thoughts that I'm sharing with strangers. But one day, we'll see. Maybe we'll look back on this and have a good laugh. But yeah, great day. Woke up, made the bed, had a decent enough breakfast of beef jerky, right? Taught my class. I taught ACLS today, Advanced Cardiac Life Support. It was great. The student got all the questions right on the test, which is something I talked to my dad a lot about, not ACLS, but school. So I am taking this class, this communications class. It's horrible. The professor flat out said you're not allowed to contact him unless you have some specific question, in which case you have to submit a comment on that particular assignment. Any course questions or general questions must be directed to a discussion board to be addressed by other classmates. That's ridiculous. Also, he says he's not showing any of the quiz answers, so if you don't get a question right, you'll never know what it was. And then he said, to me particularly, I said, because I caught errors on this test before, errors that obviously throws all the integrity of the other tests into question. Like this, I kind of experienced this last semester with a chemistry teacher. They were like objective errors on the test. You bring it up to him, and he kind of like had a little bit of an attitude, right? But like, dude, like schools are businesses. I'm a client. I'm a customer. You can't treat people like this, especially clients and customers. So, yep, found objectively wrong answers on his tests. And he says that if you're right, if you want to get in contact with them, you have to write a little question on that particular assignment. Well, I did. And wouldn't you know it, he didn't reply to that either. And he's not replying on the discussion, so my dad recommended dropping the course, right? Because the field I'm going into, or trying to get into, is highly competitive. If you get a B in a communications class, that's no good, right? If you get a B in something like, just spitballing here, like physiology, okay, a little more understandable, a little more difficult, a little more objective than this pseudoscience communications class. Anyway, so let me see if I can drop that class tomorrow. Not because it's hard, but I have a 92.5, right? But I can tell based on the way his quizzes go, never telling you the answers, never knowing what to study, never being able to contact the professor, right? The communications professor is the one you can't contact. Isn't that kind of... Anyway, see if we can drop that. Otherwise, it was a really great day. Got to talk to my dad about kind of the future and what I'm trying to aspire towards and what my plans are, which I feel like I haven't actually told you guys. So I know yesterday I said I was going to make a little more of a structured, a little more thought out. Well, oops, I actually didn't structure it or think it out, but this will be a little longer today. Just kind of going into things. So it was actually a pretty busy day, but what I went to school for all those years ago, so again, I'm 31. I went to UCLA for musical theater. I was one of however many people, 2% acceptance rate. I was really good. But the way they taught theater, or I should say musical theater specifically, it just beat me down. Like it took away all the joy of theater to me. And also, not to get into too much of it, but a lot of the undergraduate programs are actually just there to tech and costume and light the grad program. So you're kind of like labor that's paying tuition costs, but whatever. And so that really drove me away. One reason was that really drove me away from theater back in the day. It's 10 years ago, Jesus. And then from there, I went into the general studies theater program just to graduate. Like, I was done with it. I didn't want to do musical theater anymore. I didn't want to do acting. I didn't want to do theater. Never gave it a shot. But I ended up working for the UCLA Police Department as a community service officer, or a CSO. And that was really cool. Like, it paid pretty well as a student job, and you got to do a lot of cool stuff, got to see a lot of cool things. You got to respond to certain emergencies. But for the most part, it was just patrolling parking lots and buildings. And a lot of students had the wrong idea that we weren't there to get you guys in trouble. That's not at all what we were there for. We were there to make sure people that weren't supposed to be on campus weren't on campus. And there's a lot of funny stories, like they found these guys in like the woods. There's kind of there's a lot of like very tree heavy areas on UCLA. Found these guys who were like smoking weed in the woods. I don't care, but I was with my buddy, or my partner I should say, and we rolled up on them, and they're like, oh, we're sorry. And we're like, hey man, that's okay. Obviously my hair was like really high and tight. I look like a filthy hippie right now, but it's like, oh, we're sorry, we're smoking, we'll take it off the hill. And we're like, hey, don't worry about it, we're just making sure everybody's safe. That's not our concern. Like, again, we weren't there to get you in trouble. We also didn't have the power to get you in trouble, so there's that. Even if we wanted to. But he's like, oh, well, do you want us to like smash the bong? And I was like, yes, you must smash the bong. And he did it, but whatever. I've had people try to like flush weed down the toilet when we're doing inspections. Like, we're not going into your room. We're making sure we don't have strangers in the hallway, but whatever. So that was a fun job. And then from that I graduated. And then, this is kind of roundabout, but I graduated at UCLA. You're given like 1,400 hours to work or something like that before you got to move on as a graduate. So I moved back in with my parents. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Thought I wanted to be a cop, maybe. Thought I wanted to. I don't know. Again, like I mentioned a few episodes ago, that I had this awakening. We'll get there. But I ended up getting a job at Starbucks, which is great. I know there's a lot of bad things about that. The corporation itself, like, as you know, name one good corporation, right? But working at my store at Tustin and Meats in Orange, California, it was fantastic. Had a great manager. I worked the nights, so I was a closer. That was great. Drink all the coffee you want. You meet a bunch of regulars, make a bunch of friends. Actually, the shift lead that worked the night. The shift lead that worked the nights. We actually became best friends. We've been best friends since 2015-ish. So yeah, she's super cool. So got that out of there. I also put myself through EMT school when I was at Starbucks. So EMT, or Emergency Medical Technician Basic. I worked my way through that. Starbucks, worked there, 36 hours a week. Went to school for the rest of the time. Graduated EMT school, and then got a job right away because, wouldn't you know it, one of the regulars, won't say his name just because for privacy, but he was one of the upper level managers at Care Ambulance, which is the huge ambulance company in this area. So he says, oh, whenever he saw me studying through my EMT book when I was on break, he says, oh, when you're applying for jobs, mention my name, I'll hook you up. And so, wouldn't you know, I applied for a job at Care, and I mentioned that, oh, I knew so-and-so, and they're like, oh, really? Okay, well, got my application up at the top. And a lot of times back then, when there was kind of a lot of applicants in the applicant pool, right, to be EMTs, a lot of people wanted to do it. It was a little competitive, and the fact that I had his name on my resume, right on the top, so I got the job. Fast forward about a year and a half, working as an EMT, 911. I worked with the Anaheim Fire Department for a while. I worked with Los Angeles County for a while, transporting patients, doing BLS or basic life support. And then I thought, I'm still not quite sure what I wanted to do. So then I became a paramedic for some reason. I thought maybe I'd go into fire, but I never wanted to be a firefighter. And so I put myself through paramedic school. Very expensive, by the way. I went to UCLA, Daniel Freeman. So that occupied my time for, like another year. Became a paramedic in, I think, 2017. So 5 years ago. And here I am, right? So it's been a little kind of wild ride. And I kind of came to this realization that my dream, like my end goal, what I really wanted to do in life was be an actor. And again, I went to school for it, and I got kind of jaded and burnt on it because at UCLA, when they were teaching it, you don't really do a whole lot of acting as an undergraduate. You spend most of your time working on graduate shows, costuming, lighting, and building sets for them. I don't even think, if I remember right, you're not even allowed to audition for shows in your first year because of the freshman experience is what they call it. And also I feel like that by not auditioning and trying to be an actor, you haven't failed at it, right? So subconsciously, you know that it's still a possibility because it hasn't been failed at yet. So if I never went to auditions, professional, right? I never went to professional auditions. I never tried to make it in Hollywood or, off-Broadway stuff. I'm not really into the musical theater stuff anymore. But you never went to these auditions, you never were rejected, and you never failed. Well, that means it's still a possibility. It means it's still a dream. It means that maybe at one point you could go off and do that. It means that maybe, yes, sweetie. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm making a video. That's the cat. It's like, it's still there as a possibility than if you had tried and got turned down, right? Because then that's it. It's no longer a dream anymore. You know that it's a reality, that it's not meant for you, and whether or not you could or couldn't do it. Or, we get a lot of hype talk about, like, don't listen to the naysayers. But at what point do you realize that you're not meant to do something? Like, if maybe I loved basketball, loved it, I wanted to play in the NBA, all right? I'm 5'10", and I can't jump very high, and I'm horrible at basketball, okay? And all the years I played basketball, like in middle school, I made 5 points, okay? 2 shots and 1 free throw. 5 points in 3 years. But I was really good at defense. They called me Bulldog. I think they're just being nice, right? But back to the acting thing, like, that's what I've always wanted to do. That's always been at the back of my mind. That's one thing that's keeping me in this limbo of not being able to fully pursue something like nursing, not being able to fully pursue something like being a cop, being a firefighter, being a paramedic, right? Not to mention, I'm sure, like a lot of people, I don't even know really what I want to do, really. Like, is there any one thing that you really want to do to the exclusion of everything else to make it a career? Like, I love so many things. Honestly, I'm good at a lot of things. I'm pretty bad at a lot of stuff, but I'm really good. Enough that I could make a career out of several different things. But the one thing that I always came back to, the 2 a.m. thoughts. The 2 a.m. thoughts when you're laying in bed and you can't sleep and you're just kind of staring up at the ceiling and your cat's running around like crazy, right? My 2 a.m. thoughts are always about acting. I'm not going to say I wouldn't want to be a big shot like a real Matt Damon or, George Clooney or anyone. You'd be foolish to say that you wouldn't want that level of fame and money and power. And, you wouldn't. But what I always envisioned myself in, that realistic reach would be a sci-fi TV show, right? I would love to have the equivalent of like a Captain Riker on Next Gen, or what's his name? Adama on Battlestar Galactica. You know, just like, or Farscape or anything. They're Deep Space Nine or something. So being able to be on a serial, right, on some kind of long-running sci-fi or great supernatural, right? Those guys spent their whole career on that show, and they had little things they did on the side, little movies and stuff. But like that was the dream of being part of a show, you know, really building something. And it's still possible, right? And so, you know, my grandfather died recently, and it really reminded me of a lot of things, because as a paramedic you do see a lot of death. That there's a famous saying that no one on their deathbed has ever said they wish they'd gone into the office more, right? It's always, I wish I'd gone to Spain. I wish I had spent more time with my kids. I wish I had gone to Iceland. I wish that I had drank more beer. I wish I had made more things. I wish I had gone hiking more. I wish I'd seen the mountains, right? That's what really matters. It's not, you know, the minutia of life that just keeps, you know, it keeps things turning, keeps life going, but that's not what you remember. That's not what you long for at the end. And I'd hate to be on my deathbed and think, you know, as you're surrounded by whoever's still there with you, right? I don't want to be in a position where I'd have to say, I wish I'd given it a shot. And I never did. I never tried. I never went and produced something. I never went to auditions or anything like that. And I feel like I've kind of found the root of that problem was, like I said earlier, was that fear that failure and what failure would mean, that your dream is not for you. That's a scary thought. And a lot of people, I think most people actually kind of end up having to face that. And, you know, we're all the main character in our own story. And sometimes we want to realize that it doesn't always turn out so well. And I've been pretty lucky my whole life about things turning out well. But this is just one of those things that the only way you're going to get it done is to go off and do it. And so I think part of this little kind of experiment about making this diary, I guess, every day is to help me be held accountable for tracking progress in those areas. And I know I don't think I've ever mentioned, I just kind of said very enigmatically, like, oh, I have my goals, and to hold myself accountable. Well, I'm telling you right now, here's my goal. I want to be an actor. Okay? And I understand the risks involved in that, and how it's a pretty unstable job, in the sense that you're always having to hustle and be out for you and to always promote yourself. And it's not necessarily a steady paycheck. If you guys have seen I think there's an interview with Matthew McConaughey on, I think, the Rogan podcast. I'm not sure. I don't really watch it anymore. But I saw a clip with Matthew McConaughey, and he said that 99% of the actors in SAG, or the Screen Actors Guild, 99% of them have other jobs. Okay, so it's a real thing that actors don't have a great job. So we think of actors as being like rich, powerful, famous people. The vast majority are not. Right? It's just like everything else. The 1% has everything. Okay? I'm not getting into that, but that's just a statement of fact. That tippy top, the very top, they've got it made. Okay? And most people don't. Okay? Now, that's also why I'm still pursuing a career in healthcare. Okay? I have a pretty big background in emergency medicine, especially as a paramedic. You are the expert in your field, in the field. You are medical authority. You know, I have all this experience being a paramedic, you know, shooting, stabbings, medical calls, you name it. I've seen it. Of course, there's always more to see, and you'll never see it all. But I've seen a lot of stuff. And it's still interesting, right? You still get to do stuff and see stuff and whatever, that a lot of people don't. But that's like the backup. I know some people say, like, you can't have a backup, you've got to go all in. Like, that's crazy. That's not how it works anymore. Like, you gotta pay to keep the lights on. Like, I'm not gonna sell everything and live in my car, which a lot of people do. And with that 99 to 1%, how often does that really work out? Okay? So there's still the practical aspect of it. Not to mention that kind of the soft plan I had was this time of schoolwork is dedicated to improving myself physically, mentally, and as an actor, which I haven't done in years. Okay? And then when I do get that job nursing, it'd be a lot easier because I could work nights, right, 7 to 7 or whatever, and then go to your auditions during the day, which sounds like a lot of work, but yeah, but that's the point, right? Nothing good was ever easy. There's Jocko Wilkins, the former Navy SEAL? He was talking about just going after it. Like, nothing that was good was ever easy, right? Essentially, I'm butchering whatever he said, but you gotta work for it. You gotta stay hungry. You gotta go for it. You gotta stay hard, right? Like Goggins, you gotta stay hard. So I don't mind, as long as you're pursuing something that you really lust for, like your dream. Like, I want to be on a sci-fi show. I love sci-fi. I don't know if you can see, but this poster here is phenomenal. I'll show it later at some point. But it's Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I don't, original stuff. Original trilogy is my thing. Some of the EU, but you just gotta stay hungry for it. And I think that as long as you're pursuing what you really love, then it's not really work. Like right now, I go to work. I don't really love what I do, but I'm good at it, and I don't mind doing it. Like, it's nice to interact with people. I like the people I work for and with. They're great. But it's not, like, I didn't grow up thinking, like, I want to be a CPR instructor. I want to, like, teach people advanced cardiac life support. And it's just like, I'd rather not do that. I'd rather dress up in costumes and pretend to be an adventurer or something. So anyway, I said I'd make a longer, more structured video. Well, it's longer. It's not necessarily structured, but I feel like I hadn't actually gotten that out. That, yes, the point of this, the goal of this is to transform myself into the person I always wanted to be. Right? So, yeah, I think it's a good time to insert like a real tangible goal. Now, I did mention I went to school for musical theater. I'm not much of a dancer, but I'm a pretty good singer. So I think, what's today's Thursday? How about on Monday, I'll sing you guys a song, right? I'll record it, and if anyone out there is listening, I'd appreciate your honest feedback. And let me know how you think I could improve in terms of my technique and my sound. So, thanks again for listening. I know this one went about quadruple the length that I usually do, but just had a lot to say, and I look forward to speaking to you guys again tomorrow. So have a great night, and I'll see you guys later.